Good evening, Council. Again, as the President said, I'm Dwayne Over. I'm the Fire Commissioner for Warwick Emergency Services Commission. I'm here to just give an overview of our annual report in 2022. I did provide to Council, and just like Jared mentioned with his report, this will be made public online at some point, but we actually did two short reports. We did a report on statistics, and I'm going to go over some of the detail, and then also some of the particulars that I did and my organization did over the past year. So go ahead. So just as a reminder, for especially, this is a great audience. I'm hoping that a lot of you can learn more about emergency services here in the community. So Warwick Emergency Services Commission is made up of 3 municipalities: Liddittsboro, Warwick Township, and Elizabeth Township, essentially the Warwick School District. It's included within those 3 municipalities are the 4 fire companies: Brickerville, Brunerville, Lidditz, and Rossville, and also 3 ambulances: Warwick Ambulance, Rossville Ambulance, and Northwest Ambulance is located up in Brickerville. So that is who makes up what we, like the President said, what makes up WESC. So go ahead. So the important things that we do at WESC is we really focus on trying to recruit and retain our volunteers. We do a lot of work to try to bring in new applicants, like it mentions up there. It's like hiring a new employee. We do background checks, we do reference checks. Even though we're volunteers, we don't want to just take anyone that wants to join. We need to make sure they're upstanding citizens, they have a good background, good referrals, so that they're going to contribute positively in the community. Part of the, not only recruitment, but we are very focused on the retention of our volunteers as well. We do a lot of things in the community to help support them, whether it's meals, gift cards for completing training classes, gift cards for standing by at special events. The fire company, as you've heard in the past, they do a housing assistance program. So there's a lot of things we do to try to bring in volunteers. Another topic that WESC does is help with the financial stability of the fire companies, making sure the fund drives are managed well, that the donations are coming in. We also assist with the grant opportunities and then work with the municipalities, like the 3 I mentioned, to get support, financial support for the fire companies and ambulances. Our service to our community, we make sure that we have sufficient apparatus in the region, fire trucks, ambulances, and sufficient staffing. Again, the fire companies are volunteer. We don't know exactly who's going to show up, so we base our responses with the expectation, that we have enough people coming. And what that means is, if there's a fire here in Liddittsboro, like a house fire or a building fire, Brunerville and Rossville are also coming to assist, so we prepare for it up front. And then response times are very important that we keep track of to make sure that we're serving the community in the best way we can. I think that'll be talked about in one of the future slides. And then, I don't want to say last, but another thing that we do is community fire safety education. We do fire prevention in the schools. We're out talking to the kids a lot, whether it's the elementary schools, daycares, preschools, rec center, like we talk to the kids about fire safety. And then I also do fire safety training at local businesses. They do fire extinguisher training, safety training, any type of general fire training for the employees. So the 2 things I really want to focus on tonight for the benefit of the borough is talking about the Lidditz Fire Company and the Warwick Ambulance. So we'll start off with the Lidditz Fire Company. Last year, they responded to 402 calls. 162 of them, or 40%, were in the borough. In 2021, they ran 437 calls, so it was a slight decrease. To compare it, there was 212 total incidents in Warwick Township that they responded to, and that also includes the calls that they assist Brunerville and Rossville. Just some hours so you can appreciate what they do. They spend 154 hours at the fire calls and over 1,200 man hours at the fire calls. The service contract that the fire company has signed with Liddittsboro and Warwick Township includes an expectation of a response time. The Lidditz Fire Company has an expectation from the time that they get dispatched, get on the fire truck and arrive on scene. It should be within 9 minutes. Last year, if you bring up the next slide, or the next bullet, last year the fire company was averaging 7 minutes. And the reason that it's, in my opinion, well below that goal, go ahead with the next one. We have in-station staffing, even though we're volunteers. During the day, several volunteers work out of the fire station. You know, the guys who work from home, they have offices at the firehouse. I work at the firehouse 4 days a week. So we have in-station staffing, and we have several businesses in the community that allow their employees to leave for fire calls, such as Dirk and Edson, Lidditz Mutual, Woodstream, Bumburgers. There's several. Today we had an accident or a medical call about 3 o'clock, and I think we had 12 people show up, which is great daytime staffing for volunteers. And then duty crews. One of the things that the Lidditz Fire Chief Mike Smith did when he took over it is to create duty crews that every night from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. they have a committed driver, officer, and a firefighter that at any given time, every night, they know they will always get at least one fire truck out. They do the same thing on the weekends. From Friday night, 6 p.m. until Monday morning, 6 a.m., they have 24 hours of coverage, constantly having, and don't be scared off that there's only 3 firemen. There's 3 firemen that are truly committed, you know, that we know they'll be around. There's definitely more coming. So that has a lot to do with why we get out quickly here. So, next slide. So again, we always talk about the average number of firefighters that show up for calls. Lidditz is about 11 firefighters per call on the average. But last year, there was 43 volunteers that made at least one fire call. They have a pretty large group of people right now. They had 22 who responded to at least 15% of the calls, which is 60 calls. And to put that in perspective, Brickerville, Brunerville, and Rossville all average about 100 calls a year. So the guys who made 15% of the calls at Lidditz are 75% of the calls that the other fire companies are running. Or 60%, bad math, huh? Last year, Lidditz Fire Company added 5 new members, and the good thing for us, all 5 of them are 18 and under. So we have some youth coming up through the ranks. The firefighters from Lidditz completed 1,260 hours of certified training last year. And what that means is they're going away from town in the evening or the weekends, you know, 8-hour classes, 16-hour classes, 50-hour classes, to be able to be a more productive member to the fire company and the community. This next graphic, this is just a highlight of the average or of the ages of the volunteers of the firemen. And you can see under the age of 19, we have 8 volunteers. So we have a bunch of young members. And you can see 20 to 29, 30 to 39, 40 to 49 up. But you can see those first 4 categories, right there is 29 volunteers. So remember what I said about the retention. Our goal is if we can keep those 29 as they keep moving up in age, we will be very successful and remain a volunteer fire company for a long time. The biggest concern we have is those 16 to 19-year-olds, and it's not a bad thing, they go off to college. Sometimes they return. Or they try to find a place to rent or find a place to buy, and it might not be here in Lidditz. The 20 to 29-year-olds, if you guys can remember, that's when they start families, and that's when they might not have the time to commit. The 40 to 49-year-olds, that's when the dads who started families came back to help us out. So we're doing pretty good. And we have some older, 60 and up, we have 3 guys. 2 of them are retired that are drivers, so they provide a great resource to us. One of the highlights this past year, Lidditz signed a contract to order a new ladder truck in April of 2022. It's an E1 ladder truck, which matches the engine that they just bought, the same brand. You can go ahead with the other, yep. It's a 100-foot ladder truck. This one does not have a pump like a fire engine. This is just a ladder truck. One of the advantages of this ladder truck, it's a shorter wheelbase and it's smaller of a vehicle than the current ladder truck, but it's the same length. So the advantage is the drivers will feel more comfortable and hopefully we'll get more drivers for the fire truck. It's anticipated to arrive in early 2024. So if you do the math, we ordered it in 2022. It won't be here till 2024. When we ordered it, we were told 600 days. Within a month, as you guys can all imagine, supply shortages and the supply chain, now it's 750 days. And it's being built down in Florida. So the cost of the ladder truck is $1.1 million, which sounds high. But if you look at the next point, if they would have replaced the current ladder truck exactly the same way it is, it would have cost 1.8 million or more. So the fire company, we really looked at how we can find ways to save money. And just so you're aware, most fire trucks are 20+ year life cycle. The other benefit to the fire companies, and we started this back in 2020 or maybe earlier, we started an apparatus plan where the municipalities are putting money into the plan. The municipalities are paying for the fire trucks. So the Lidditz fire trucks are being paid for by Lidditz Borough and Warwick Township out of the general fund. Okay? And that doesn't mean that the borough put $500,000 in the last 2 years. We've been saving up money since the last time we bought, a ladder truck. So that pot has been growing each year. So the great thing about that, the municipalities are paying for it, which means the tax base is paying for it, not just those who donate throughout the year. So go ahead. That being said, the fund drive is the biggest source of income for the fire company to continue operating their business, being a fire company. The fund drive only gets 28% support from the community, which is why it's very important that the municipalities are helping us out with the apparatus. I mean, when you think about it, 3 out of 10 houses donate. When you go down the neighborhood, only 3 houses out of every 10 are supporting the fire company. But that being said, those who donate always donate generously. They donate very well to the fire company. The rental units continue to be the lowest level of income to the fire company's fund drive. That's one of the struggles we have. The fire company requests funding from the apartment, like the renters, but then also from the property owner. And that tends to be the lowest level of support. I'm sorry. And then just an overview real quick, the apparatus. The fire company has 2 pumpers, which is basically the fire trucks with the hose and the water, a ladder truck, a squad, 2 chief vehicles, like the leaders of the company, and then 3 staff vehicles. All right, so we'll...
You're doing pretty good.
Thank you. All right, Warwick Ambulance, just a short bit to go yet, people. Last year they did 4,391 incidents, a lot more than the fire company, which is why they're paid. The volunteers cannot handle that type of workload. You can see it's a slight decrease from last year. Out of the 4,300 calls, almost 4,400, 1,600 of them were responses in Lidditz Borough, compared to 1,651 in Warwick. So it's almost 50-50 for the Warwick Ambulance here. The balance of them are covering other areas. And just for a perspective, they were in Lancaster Township today, they were in East Hempfield Township today, they were in Manheim Township today, and I'll talk a little bit about that in the next slide. Warwick Ambulance has 32 total employees, full-time and part-time. They also have 5 volunteers, 2 of which are young, like 16, 17-year-old students who are EMTs that volunteer their time. And then they also have 3 volunteers that help do the wheelchair, like transport driving, helping people get to medical appointments or or coming back from a hospital or a medical appointment. So the Warwick Ambulance, this is the newest ambulance they bought. They bought a refurbished ambulance in 2022, and that's a cheaper way for the ambulances to save money. What it is, it's a brand new cab, like this is a Ford E-Series vehicle, and then they take the box and off the old ambulance, refurbish it, and put it on the new ambulance. They are also waiting on another one that they've been waiting a long time. Again, supply chain shortage. That one, just for an understanding of the expense, it was originally going to be about $98,000, but for the supply chain and the increase in cost, Frank Kennevan, the president, told me it's up to almost $140,000. That is funded out of their savings, like through their billing. And again, their current apparatus, 3 transport ambulances, 1 squad, and 2 wheelchair vans. And last thing with Warwick Ambulance, Frank wanted me to highlight to everyone, they continue to be very busy, as you saw, over 4,000 calls. There is an EMS crisis in the county, kind of what I was just referring to. There's a shortage of ambulances, there's a shortage of paid staff. So when Manheim Township, or let me start even deeper, when LEMSA, the Lancaster City ambulance, is busy on a call, and Manheim Township goes into Lancaster City to cover call, and then Warwick goes into Manheim Township, and Rossville comes into Lidditz, it's a big game of chess, and it happens a lot. So if you live in Liddittsboro, you know, please support Warwick Ambulance, but don't be surprised when Rossville Ambulance shows up because of the call volume. Their staffing is good, they're always looking to add more. They have limited overtime, like they're able to staff their rigs pretty well. They have limited overtime, but most of their people do work 12 or 24-hour shifts, so some of them have built-in overtime for their 40-hour week. Their subscription, which is their fund drive, is 30% support, so it's fairly low as well. And then their service contract with the borough is also to arrive within 9 minutes of dispatch. They average 6.5 minutes from the time of dispatch to get to your home. So that's all I have. I just want to thank the Borough Council for their support of WESC, myself,